There has always been this dilemma in the Christian community. Can you truly love God and still practice self improvement? I spent a long time stuck in that conflict because as a Christian, I knew I should deny my flesh. But then also, I knew that God calls us to steward our lives well and develop the gifts He's given us. So, should Christians actually avoid self improvement altogether, or have we been asking the wrong question this whole time? Today, we're finally breaking down what we're supposed to do when we feel like we're being pulled in two different directions. Because I don't think faith and self improvement are enemies. I think they simply have a different purpose. The reason this feels like such a dilemma is because we misunderstand what faith and improvement actually are. When most people hear self improvement, myself included, we immediately picture hustle culture, productivity, success, building your dream life, becoming the best version of yourself. And that is not necessarily wrong. All those things on itself are not bad, but what we do with them matters. We decide if those things become a problem. And the problem starts when your identity depends on them. Because the worldly self-improvement often tells you that you're a project that needs fixing. Your worth depends on your accomplishments. If you're not getting up at 4 a.m., you're already falling behind. And as you can imagine, that becomes a never-ending race. I said this in one of my previous videos. We know when you give yourself to the world instead of God, there will always be some kind of validation to chase. No matter how much you accomplish, it is never enough. There will always be another habit, another era, another goal. And please don't even get me started on glow up and winter arc videos. Eventually, all of that turns your identity into something fragile. Being you becomes feeling shaky. And that is when pride quietly sneaks in. Not always in the most obvious ways. Sometimes pride simply looks like believing that everything depends on you, that you are in control of everything, that it's just a matter of how hard you're working or how strongly you believe in these desires. Subconsciously, we can fall into the trap of doing things only for ourselves and for our own ego, instead to honor God. Here's the biggest lesson I had to learn because it became incredibly personal for me. There was a season in my life where I was struggling so much to the point where brushing my teeth or combing my hair felt like such a chore. And for some, making the bed isn't such a big deal. For others, it was a crucial step to becoming a millionaire, basically, from what I've heard. But back then, making my bed felt almost victorious. So putting those tiny habits into my productivity app, getting therapy, having a clear routine, they all help me gain structure. Self-improvement can absolutely change your habits. It can make you more organized, more consistent, more disciplined. It can even change your lifestyle, but it cannot change your heart. Only Jesus Christ can do that. And I will never say those tiny habits were useless, because they weren't. But here's what they couldn't do. They couldn't free me from everything that caused those struggles in the first place. But God could, and He did. Self-improvement helped me get through the day, but faith in Jesus transformed me. And they can't compete with each other ever. Not only because God and God's love are like nothing on this earth, nothing even comes close, but also because they both have a completely different purpose. When your identity is rooted in Jesus Christ, it stops depending on your performance and it becomes secure. You don't earn His love and grace by reading 50 books a year or by becoming more productive. You are loved because you are His. This is the security you will never find in any self-help book or any productivity app. Still, that doesn't mean we have to throw out all things self-improvement. Sometimes God actually gives us wisdom through other things like books, podcasts, and resources that help us develop the gifts and skills He has placed in us. We aren't just developing those skills to become improved. We are developing them to follow where He calls us to go. I have so many self-help books because I enjoy reading them. I enjoy learning new things from them. But what I'm about to tell you is by far the most important, yet also the most overlooked spiritual danger. As Christians, we need to stay woke at all times. There is so much noise out there in the world, and you want to open your eyes to false advice and wrong teachings. You need to open your eyes and be able to recognize the darkness that disguises itself as light. Be overly cautious rather than to let things slide because you're thinking they're not such a big deal anyway. Because you never know what you might be inviting into your mind and your heart even by accident. And you want to stay away from all things evil. The best way to do this is to ask yourself, what is my motive? Am I doing this to build my own kingdom or to contribute to God's? Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 to 4 tells us, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. The motive behind the self improvement act matters because the exact same act can either feed your ego or glorify God. So improve your skills. Keep growing your gifts, but use the resources wisely. If you're unsure about a certain self help advice, always test this advice first against scripture and filter. Keep what's good and leave out what isn't, because not everything that sounds wise actually is. So, how do we actually live this whole thing out? It is honestly much simpler than you might think. Every time you practice self improvement, ask yourself, how can I invite God into this? If I am journaling, it's in my prayer journal. If I wish for something, I'm not manifesting, I am praying because I believe that God provides. If I'm listening to a podcast, I pray before I hit play, asking God to show me what I need to hear. My everyday prayer has become incredibly simple. God, everything I do, let me do it for you. Everything I do, whether I'm working on a new script or filming or cooking, I invite Him to be in this moment with me. And that small shift changed everything because now I'm no longer improving myself for me. I want to work with God for God. If God created you with specific gifts and talents, is it so ungodly to want to improve them? I don't think so. I think the real danger isn't the self improvement itself. The danger is forgetting who you're doing it for. Self improvement has the self in it. But just because you're self improving, working on yourself, doesn't mean it has to be for you. The hardest part of this journey was realizing that my self improvement efforts weren't failing these past years because I was doing them wrong. They were failing because I was doing them without Him. And when you keep this in mind at all times, growth stops being about proving yourself and it starts becoming an act of worship. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever felt like you need to choose between faith and self-improvement? And if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll also love the video I made about trusting your calling. I'll link it right here and I will see you there. Bye.